Let me say that again for the people in the back. Everybody wants to be strong until life puts something on your shoulders that breaks you. And when that moment comes, and oh, it will come, you better hear me clearly. You are not alone. Everybody wants to be strong until life lifts something you can't carry. It's easy to talk strength when everything's going well. When the bank account looks good, when the career is flowing, and your body is healthy, that's when everybody flexes. That's when everybody talks faith, talks grind, talks discipline. But real strength shows up not when life is light and manageable, but when it gets heavy. When the weight of the world hits you in the chest so hard you can't even catch your breath. That's the moment when strength isn't a slogan. It's a survival skill. The problem is most people don't see it coming. They believe that if they just keep working, if they keep hustling, everything will stay under control. But life doesn't ask for your permission before it changes. It doesn't knock on your door and ask, is now a good time for heartbreak, for loss, for betrayal? No, it just drops it on you like a barbell stacked of weight you weren't trained to lift. And suddenly you're on the floor, crushed by something you never asked for. That's where the illusion of strength breaks. That's where the truth kicks in. You were never meant to carry certain things alone. We weren't created to shoulder every burden. But pride, ego, and fear convince us that asking for help is weakness, that trusting someone else, especially God, is giving up control. And so we struggle silently. We smile in front of people and cry behind closed doors. We show up to work, to church, to life, and we're dying inside. We're strong in appearance, but we're broken in reality. See, the weight isn't just physical. It's emotional. It's spiritual. It's mental. It's anxiety that keeps you up at night. It's shame that whispers you're not enough. It's pressure to perform, to provide, to pretend. And all of it adds up day after day. It piles high until you're not lifting anymore. You're being buried. But I need you to understand something. True strength doesn't mean carrying everything. True strength is knowing when to release it. When life drops something too heavy on you, that's not the time to prove how tough you are. That's the moment to prove how faithful you are. That's the moment to stop pretending and start trusting. That's when you have to let go of your pride and say, God, I can't do this without you. You were never expected to live life powered by your own strength alone. That's why God gave you access to his. Scripture says in Isaiah 40:29, he gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. That means even in your lowest moment, your most exhausted season, you're not without hope. You're not without help. When the burden becomes too heavy, that's your cue not to power through, but to press in. Press into God. Lean on him. He's not distant. He's not watching from afar. He's right there, ready to carry what you can't. And no, that doesn't mean the pain disappears overnight. It doesn't mean the loss didn't happen or the struggle isn't real. But it means you're no longer carrying it alone. There's a difference between carrying weight that breaks you and walking with someone who helps you stand under it. When you surrender, you don't lose strength, you gain supernatural support. Everybody wants to be strong, but few are willing to admit when they're weak. That's the turning point. That's where freedom lives. When you finally say, God, this is too much for me, you unlock a power far beyond yourself. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. That's the moment you stop being crushed and start being carried. So the next time life drops something heavy on you, when grief hits, when anxiety rises, when the burden is too much, don't fake strength. Don't pretend. Don't carry what you can cast. Remember, God didn't ask you to prove your strength. He invited you to trust his. Because when life lifts something you can't carry, he already can. You weren't built to carry everything. Some things belong in God's hands. That simple truth can change your entire life. But most people don't realize it until they've hit the wall. We live in a world that praises self-sufficiency, that glorifies being unbreakable, that tells you to grind harder, hustle more, push through. So you keep stacking responsibility on your back, pressure, expectations, guilt, shame, fear, and the weight of trying to make everything work. You tell yourself you're strong enough that if you don't do it, no one will. And maybe you keep it together for a while, but eventually something gives. There's a difference between being responsible and being overloaded. There's a difference between being faithful and trying to play God. And a lot of us don't know that line. We think strength means doing it all, solving it all, fixing it all. But listen, strength also means knowing your limits. And spiritually, you were never created to carry the weight of the world. That job is already taken. That's God's job. Think about it. When you try to hold everything in your own hands, what happens? You get anxious. You lose sleep. Your peace disappears. Your heart grows heavy. And suddenly you're living in survival mode. But the Bible doesn't call you to survive. It calls you to abide. That means you rest in God's power, not your own. That means you don't have to force what only faith can fix. Some burdens are too deep for human strength, too painful, too complex. That's when you've got to know how to surrender. And surrender is not giving up. Surrender is giving over the burden, giving over the control, giving over the outcome. There's power in that. Because when you hand it to God, you're not saying you're weak. You're saying he's stronger. You're not saying you don't care. You're saying, God, you care more than I ever could. Let me make this practical. Maybe you're holding the burden of a broken relationship. You've prayed, you've cried, you've tried everything, and nothing's working. Could it be that you're trying to fix something that only God can heal? Maybe you're carrying the weight of financial pressure. You've done your part, but the anxiety won't leave. Could it be that God is asking you to trust him with what's beyond your reach? Some of us are carrying guilt for things God already forgave, or fear for things that haven't even happened yet. And that kind of weight is not just exhausting, it's damaging. You weren't built for that. God never asked you to carry it alone. In fact, 1 Peter 5:7 says, cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. Did you catch that? Not some of your anxiety, all of it. That means the stress over your future, the pain from your past, the weight of your present, it all belongs in his hands. And here's the beautiful part. His hands are big enough. His strength is sufficient. His grace is more than enough. You don't have to manage it all. You just have to trust the one who can. There's peace in knowing it's not all on you. There's freedom in realizing that letting go isn't failure, it's faith. The enemy wants you to believe that letting go means losing. He'll whisper, if you don't handle it, who will? But God says, be still and know that I am God. That's not a suggestion, it's a command. Because your stillness is where his power shows up. Your surrender is where his strength takes over. So ask yourself, what are you carrying that you were never meant to hold? Is it shame, fear, unforgiveness, pressure to be perfect, expectations from other people? Whatever it is, it's not worth your peace. It's not worth your sanity. It's not worth your soul. Release it. You were never meant to be God. You were meant to be his. You don't have to know how it ends. You just have to know who holds it all. And when you give it to him, that's when healing begins. That's when the burden lifts. That's when you can finally breathe. Because you weren't built to carry everything. Some things belong in God's hands. If it's too heavy for your heart, it's meant for his hands. That line might sound simple, but it carries a depth that most people overlook until they find themselves crushed by the weight of something they never asked for. Pain, pressure, fear, heartbreak, disappointment. These things don't just weigh down your schedule. They weigh down your soul. You feel it in the middle of the night when you can't sleep. You feel it when your chest tightens from stress. You feel it when you smile for everyone else but go home feeling empty. And in those moments, here's the truth you need to grab hold of. If your heart is breaking under it, it was never meant to stay in your possession. God never intended for you to carry spiritual and emotional burdens on your own. He never said, be strong and silent. He never said, pretend everything's okay. He said, come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Matthew 11:28. So why are you still carrying what he already offered to take? The problem is we've been conditioned to believe that letting go means losing control. And in our fear of not being in control, we hold on to pain that's poisoning us. We carry bitterness, regret, shame, and anxiety as if they're our responsibility. We grip on the things that are breaking us because we're afraid that if we release them, we'll fall apart. But the opposite is true. You're falling apart because you're holding on to what you should have released. There's a kind of pain that doesn't just hurt, it clings. It wraps itself around your thoughts. It speaks into your identity. It convinces you that this is just your life now. You start to normalize the heaviness. You say things like, it's just a season, or I'm just tired. When the truth is, you're burdened. You've tried therapy. You've tried distractions. You've tried working harder, numbing it, ignoring it, but nothing helps because the problem isn't physical. It's spiritual. And spiritual burdens can't be fixed with surface solutions. They can only be released into the hands of God. And here's where it gets real. God is not just willing to take your burdens. He's asking you to give them to him. But giving them to him requires trust. It means saying, God, I can't carry this, and I trust you can. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. That's strength under surrender. That's peace rising up from a place of brokenness. And listen, peace isn't found in having all the answers. It's found in knowing who does. Think about the things you're holding on to right now. That fear about your future, that's too heavy for your heart. That pain from your past, that betrayal, that rejection, that trauma, that's too heavy. That constant pressure to perform, to prove, to please everyone, way too heavy. These things were never designed to sit in your chest like bricks. They were meant to be cast in the hands of a God whose strength has no limits. The Bible says in Psalm 55:22, cast your cares on the Lord and he will sustain you. That's a promise. And not just a promise of comfort, but of support. God isn't just going to watch you struggle. He's going to step in and hold what you can't. But you have to make the decision to release it. Sometimes the breakthrough doesn't come when you try harder. It comes when you finally let go. It comes when you open your hands and say, God, this is too much for me. Take it, heal it, hold it. And in that moment, your burden may not disappear instantly, but it will shift. It will lift because now it's no longer on you. It's in his hands. And you can trust his hands. The same hands that calm the storm. The same hands that calm the storm. The same hands that were nailed to a cross for your freedom. Those hands don't drop what you give them. They don't shake under pressure. They don't break under weight. His hands hold your healing. They hold your future. They hold you. So if it's too heavy for your heart, stop carrying it. Don't tuck it away. Don't bury it deeper. Don't pretend it's fine. Release it. Trust him. Give it to his hands. And watch what happens when the weight leaves your heart and rest where it was always meant to be. You can't carry grace and guilt. You can't walk in fear and faith. You have to choose what's going to lead your life, your burden or your belief. That choice matters more than you think because the direction of your life always follows the weight of your heart. If you're walking with guilt, it will pull you down no matter how hard you try to rise. If you're walking in fear, it will freeze your progress, even when the path is clear. And here's the hard truth. Most people are not being defeated by what's around them. They're being destroyed by what they're carrying inside. Let's talk about grace and guilt. Both are powerful, but they don't coexist. Grace says you are forgiven, redeemed, restored. Guilt says you're not enough. You'll never change. You'll always carry this. Grace frees you. Guilt binds you. And yet, so many people try to carry both. They go to church and lift their hands in worship, but deep down, they're still chained to what they did, what they said, what they failed to be. They say God loves me, but their mind keeps whispering, yeah, but not completely, not after what you've done. That tension is spiritual warfare. And you cannot win a battle when you're living in two kingdoms. You either believe you're forgiven or you don't. You either accept grace or you keep carrying guilt. There's no in between. And the longer you stay stuck trying to balance both, the heavier life gets. You start questioning your worth. You shrink back from your calling. You disqualify yourself from peace. Not because God said you couldn't have it, but because guilt convinced you you're not worthy of it. But here's the good news. Grace is not something you earn. It's something you receive. You don't have to work for it. You don't have to prove you deserve it. That's the entire point of the cross. Jesus didn't die so you could carry guilt dressed up as humility. He died so you could walk in boldness. Knowing your past doesn't cancel your purpose. You're not being arrogant when you accept grace. You're being obedient. Now let's flip it to fear and faith. Same deal. You cannot walk forward in both. Fear says, stay where it's safe. Faith says, step into the unknown. Fear paralyzes. Faith activates. Fear locks the door. Faith opens it. And again, too many people try to do both. They say they trust God, but still live like the worst is always about to happen. They pray for direction, but never move when he speaks. They talk about dreams, but stay glued to comfort zones. Why? Because fear still has a seat at their table. You got to get honest. Who's really leading you? Your faith or your fear? You can't walk with both. You're either stepping in boldness or stuck in hesitation. And that matters because fear will always steal what faith is trying to build. It will talk you out of blessings. It will distract you from purpose. It will convince you to shrink when you were made to soar. But faith doesn't need all the answers. It just needs a yes to move, a yes to trust, a yes to believe, even when it doesn't make sense. If you want to live free, you have to make a decision. Drop the guilt, embrace grace, let go of fear, walk by faith. Don't wait for your emotions to catch up. Lead them. Don't wait for everything to feel perfect. Move anyway. God didn't call you to be perfect. He called you to believe, to follow, to trust. It's time to stop carrying what contradicts the promises of God. Guilt contradicts grace. Fear contradicts faith. They don't belong in the same life. So stop letting guilt tell you who you are. Stop letting fear decide where you're going. God has already spoken. He said you're loved, you're chosen, you're called. That's grace. That's faith. And that's enough. The burden or the belief. You've got to pick one, but only one leads to freedom. Choose the one that sets you free. Choose grace, choose faith, and never look back. You're not tired because you're weak. You're tired because you're carrying what God was supposed to live. That kind of exhaustion isn't just physical. It's spiritual, emotional, and mental. It's the kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. It's the kind of tired that still shows up even when your schedule looks manageable. It's the soul level weariness that comes from trying to handle too much. Too many people's expectations, too much pressure to be perfect, too much weight from pain you never healed from and burdens you never surrendered. People look at you and think you're strong, and you are, but you're also tired. You're tired of being the one everyone depends on. You're tired of acting like everything's fine. You're tired of pushing through pain that no one sees. You're tired of functioning in survival mode, where every day feels like a battle just to stay afloat. And deep down, you wonder, why am I so drained? Why do I feel like I'm running on empty even when I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do? The answer is simple but powerful. You're carrying what you were never meant to carry alone. You've taken on the role of provider, protector, problem solver, and peacemaker all at once. And you're doing it with a smile because you don't want anyone to see you struggling. But that smile is hiding the truth. Your strength is being spent on battles that belong to God. This kind of exhaustion happens when we confuse our responsibilities with His. Yes, you're called to work hard. Yes, you're called to be faithful, but you were never called to be God. And the moment you try to control everything, outcomes, people, timelines, healing, provision, you step into a space you were never designed to occupy. And it wears you out, not because you're lazy or faithless, but because your spirit knows you're out of alignment. Think about it like this. A car is made to run a certain way. If something is off in the engine, it starts using more fuel, struggling to perform, overheating, and eventually it breaks down. That's how your life feels when you're carrying burdens not designed for you. You burn energy faster. You lose clarity. You become irritable, anxious, hopeless. Not because something is wrong with you, but because you're trying to function under a load you weren't built for. The truth is, God doesn't want you to carry all that. In fact, He commands you to give it to Him. Jesus said, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Matthew 11:28. Rest isn't a reward for the end of your work. It's a spiritual reset for the middle of it. But you can't receive that rest if your hands are too full. You have to release something. So what do you need to release? Maybe it's the need to control how your future unfolds. Maybe it's the pain from your past that you keep trying to manage instead of surrender. Maybe it's people you love who you've been trying to save all by yourself. Whatever it is, if it's draining your strength, stealing your peace, and clouding your joy, it's not yours to carry. And here's the powerful part. When you give it to God, you don't get weaker, you get stronger. Not because you're doing less, but because you're finally aligned with the truth that His power is made perfect in your weakness. You stop operating on empty and start moving in grace. You stop pushing through and start walking in peace. Your strength isn't gone. It was just buried under the weight of things you were never meant to hold. This is your invitation to breathe again. To stop pretending you're okay when you're not. To stop carrying pain in silence. To stop performing and start trusting. You are not weak. You are not broken. You are not failing. You're simply tired from doing too much without the one who wants to help you. So let this be your shift. Let this be your moment. Say it out loud. God, I'm tired, and I need you to carry this. That's not defeat. That's wisdom. That's faith. That's how rest begins. And that's how your strength gets restored. Because the truth still stands. You're not tired because you're weak. You're tired because you're carrying what only God was meant to lift. You are not alone in this fight. That's not just a nice phrase. It's a spiritual reality that has the power to break the grip of fear, depression, anxiety, and isolation off your life. But the enemy works overtime to convince you otherwise. He whispers, no one understands. No one sees you. No one cares. If you speak up, they'll walk away. If you fall apart, they'll judge you. You're in this by yourself. And if you're not careful, you start believing that lie. You start living like you're on an island, like your struggles are unique, like your pain disqualifies you from community, like your burdens make you a burden. That isolation is not from God. It's a strategy of the enemy because he knows if he can get you alone, he can get you defeated. But here's the truth. You were never meant to walk this life by yourself. You were created for connection with God and with people. And the very moment you feel the most tempted to withdraw is often the moment you most need to reach out. See, being alone doesn't just mean being physically by yourself. It means mentally shutting down. It means emotionally disconnecting. It means spiritually giving up, even when your body is still going through the motions. It means showing up in the room but feeling invisible. And that level of isolation is dangerous because it warps your perspective. It makes the mountain look bigger. It makes the storm feel louder. It makes your strength feel smaller. But everything changes when you remember, you are not fighting this battle on your own. God is not distant. He's not sitting back watching you suffer. He's closer than your next breath. Psalm 34:18 says, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. That means when you feel the most shattered, he's the most present. You don't have to clean yourself up to approach him. You don't have to hide your pain to get his attention. He meets you in it. He walks with you through it. He fights for you. And not only that, he sends people to walk with you too. That's why community matters. That's why vulnerability matters. Because healing often comes through connection. When you open your mouth and say, I'm not okay, you create space for someone to say, me too. And suddenly, what felt like a dark room becomes a shared light. Suddenly, what felt like shame becomes a shared strength. You weren't meant to carry this alone. And even Jesus, in his moment of deepest pain, surrounded himself with people. If he didn't isolate in the garden, why should you? The enemy wants you to suffer in silence, but God calls you to live in light. And that means stepping out of the shadows of shame, fear, and hiding. That means letting people in. That means crying when you need to cry, asking for prayer when you feel weak, receiving encouragement when your faith is low. You don't get extra points in the kingdom for pretending to be strong. You grow stronger by being honest. That's how God builds resilience, not through isolation, but through relationship. So maybe today you're in a silent battle. Maybe no one knows what you're dealing with. Maybe you've been smiling for too long, hoping someone sees through it. Maybe you've been carrying secrets that feel like chains. You don't have to do it anymore. You don't have to be the strong one 24/7. You don't have to wear the mask. You don't have to prove you're okay. Because God already knows, and he's already near, and he's already placed people in your life to help carry what you no longer can. This is your reminder. You are not alone. Not in your pain, not in your doubt, not in your grief, not in your struggle. God is with you. His spirit lives in you, and his people are around you. Don't believe the lie that you're by yourself. Don't let silence steal your healing. Reach out, speak up. Let someone pray for you. Let someone walk with you. Let God love you through the people he's placed around you. You were never meant to carry life alone. You were meant to walk it together with God at the center and real people by your side. That's how you keep moving forward. That's how the way lifts. That's how the healing starts. You are not alone in this fight. Not now, not ever.